Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is October 31st, 2022, and let's get over the news happening in Ukraine and the world, shall we? So, first of all, happy Halloween to all of you who are celebrating with your kids or your friends. Enjoy it, and I'm sure it's going to be a great day for you. And in other news as well, now let's get to what Russia is doing following their massive blow in Sevastopol a couple of days ago. So, Russia retaliated with a launch of 50 missiles targeting critical infrastructure all across Ukraine, including the capital, Kyiv. And in Kyiv, about 80% of the city residents were left without water supply after an energy facility near the capital was damaged. So again, this is a typical, retaliation by Russia. They hit our civilian infrastructure heavily when they get a blow. Remember the Crimean bridge attack? They did the same thing, massive strike across all over Ukraine. Don't get fooled. Russia still has stockpiles of missiles. It's dwindling. They have less of it. They're not capable of restoring or having the same capacity pre-war, but they still have a large amount of missiles. They just use it now in a much smaller scale and less. But they still have a lot, and they will continue doing that until they are defeated by our army. They're going to do this, and don't get fooled by them trying to talk about peace talks and compromise. They're not going to do any of that until we defeat the Russian army. That is step number one. In other news, which was quite interesting, a Moldovan coup d'etat could be formed soon. That is yet to be seen, but according to this article, the Russian secret services obviously have been operating by the same methodology that has been used against Ukraine the past 30 years. Energy blackmail and corruption serve as their main levers. In Ukraine, it was the same thing. The FSB and the Russian government was heavily bribing certain officials in Ukraine to get vital information, to, block certain decisions in the government. And obviously, it did work to a certain degree. And now, right now, Russia is banking on a 35-year-old Ilan Shor, who was a prominent Moldovan businessman, the owner of a bank, a chain of stores, an airport in Kishinev, and other assets. In 2015, he became mayor of the Moldovan city of Orhai, but 2 years later, he was found guilty of stealing $1 billion from the Moldovan banking system. I don't even know how he managed to fool uh, stealing $1 billion. In 2019, he left for Israel, from where he continued to lead his party, which in 2021 took third place. Very surprising, first of all, that he managed to, steal $1 billion and still get third place in parliamentary elections. But it's very scary because I personally really believe that Moldova is next. In the beginning of the war, it was still unsure if Ukraine would be able to hold out, the first month. And I was certain that if Ukraine was to fall, Moldova would be next. Moldova is not part of EU, not part of NATO. It's an easy country to attack. They would like literally what they were talking about Ukraine falling within like 3 days. I'm pretty sure if Russia started Moldova first, that's what would have happened because Moldova really doesn't have a military. Moldova has, economic trouble. They just wouldn't be able to withstand a Russian attack. The only thing that saved Moldova is the fact that, well, it's pretty much not close to Russia. So Russia needs to go through Ukraine first to be able to get to Moldova. Now, let's not forget, I want to show you on this map that Moldova also has their own little DNR Donbass region, which is Transnistria, that is right over here, which is bordering Ukraine, which is a very mountainous region. And their capital is Tiraspol, which is somewhere around here. If I zoom in, yes, it is right beside Bender and not from the show Futurama. So yeah, essentially it does have its own issue. There are 2,000 Russian peacekeepers bordering here, and there is a worry that they could potentially start, um, you know, taking action in some sort of military coup d'etat. And Kishinev is not that far away from Tiraspol and all the border with Transnistria. So this is a very, very possibility for for Moldova for this to happen. So Very interesting. I hope it doesn't happen, but again, if anything, I think Ukraine would step in because this is directly affecting Ukraine as well. So I think that Ukraine should step in if Russia tries to meddle in some sort of a coup d'etat in Moldova, because we can't accept to have two fronts being squeezed by Russians on two fronts. This would be unacceptable, in my opinion. And we are getting new Bayraktar drones, or at least Turkish drone company Baykar is working on to develop air-to-air missile to counter kamikaze drone attacks in Ukraine. So that essentially would mean that we would be provided with new air-to-air missiles systems. So if you guys don't know, Bayraktars have been proving themselves to be very effective in the beginning of the war. They're less seen now because Russia's gotten a little bit smarter and they actually put a lot of surface-to-air missiles to counter these Bayraktar drones. But as a response to the widespread use of these slow and cheap Iranian kamikaze drones, like the Shahed 136, Baykar is working on a counter. So I'm very sure that's going to be super effective, and it's really going to help our resolve to stop the Russian, you know, terrorist attacks all over Ukraine. The Russian way. So this was captured by the special forces of Ukraine. So Russians were retreating, but they can't retreat without anything. So they retreated with bags of stolen goods. You can see here they're very well depicted with their yellow, or I should say their white, massive, trash bags full of, probably stolen goods from, simple Ukrainian people. And if you guys um, haven't heard, there's a lot of intercepted calls from these Russian soldiers where they're like, wow, these Ukrainians are living in such luxury. They even have Nutella and like, alcohol and stuff like that. Like the standard of living in Russia, especially in the rural cities, is horrible. And these intercepted phone calls within the Russian military is only proof of that. So that's what they steal. They steal because it's an opportunity for them to get instantly richer or have a better standard of living. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's the Russian way. And Russian Hunger Games. So I've said it yesterday. Russia is planning on, blockading the ships, but UN, NATO, and the EU said that they were going to resume the Ukrainian grain deal, despite what Russia has said. And apparently, there have been ships that have been going through the Black Sea without any issue as of today. But Russia still is blocking a ship with 40,000 tons of grain that is meant to go for Ethiopia. That is blocked by Russia, and it's creating a vital humanitarian, crisis in Africa. And to all my African viewers, if you don't know which way you're standing, this is proof that Russia does not care about Africa, does not care about the well-being of people in Africa. There is, a famine going on in Ethiopia, as far as I'm concerned. And these people need food. And this ship specifically was meant to go to Ethiopia to help the people out there that are in need of, vital grains. And Russia's blockading it because they're blackmailing the entire world again with the grain supply and food supply. So, to all my African viewers, please see that Russia does not have the African interests in its mind and its objectives. So, yeah, and I have a few videos for you guys. One of them is more Russian trains heading towards the front line. Again, Russia has many, many, many military assets. To think that they're going to stop fighting in nearby future, no. They have thousands of tanks. They still have thousands of missiles and artillery systems. They're going to continue pumping them until they scrap the barrel at the bottom and they have nothing left. So let's take a look. Very loud. These are in the beginning, these were Urahan systems that you can see here. These are Urahan systems, rocket missile systems. So they're pushing more of that. In other news, this is a Javelin video that I thought was really cool, and obviously hit its target because of the massive explosion at the end. But the Javelins are very great weapons, And a special thank you for the United States for sending them. They were super effective in the beginning of the war, and they still are super effective right now. Boom. Wow. The Javelin system, what makes it great is that it has two firing modes. It has a direct line of sight mode, so it shoots straight, or the missile can go it shoots itself high up and then it hits the target from above. Essentially, it's really meant for tanks usually because the tanks, their turrets are the most vulnerable part. And so it strikes the turret, which makes it, explode, especially if it's a T-72 or Russian T-72. And last video before I'm done is the Russian morale seems to be rather positive despite the fact that their equipment is garbage. So let's take a look. So these are Russian soldiers complaining that their AKs are rusted, terrible condition. These are literally probably original AK-47s built in 1947. That all the little functions are broken. Yeah, the spring is completely busted. It's funny how they're laughing at their own misery. They're not doing anything about it, these soldiers. They're accepting that they're in a terrible army. They're filming this for all of us to see. I mean, I think they could care less about their lives, to be honest. And just look the state of like where they're at. The camp looks miserable too. Like, almost makes me feel bad a little bit about them, but at the same time, I realize these soldiers come to kill our own people, our Ukrainian innocent civilians and soldiers that are fighting for freedom. So I don't really care. Yeah, you sure will win against everybody. Rusted, the muzzle's moving. Yeah, so that's it, guys. This is the military in Russia. But unfortunately, I have millions of these soldiers now, and they're going to continue pushing these meat waves against the Ukrainians. At this point, it's just a zombie level, right, that we need to beat. It's not unlimited, but keep in mind that there's a lot of these soldiers in Russia, and they're going to send them by the thousands. So we don't have a choice but to beat them off. And they are not going to do anything about it. You see the soldiers, they see the problems that they're having, and they're not revolting, they're not protesting, they're not doing anything about it. So, yeah, we got to beat them off. So, thank you guys for watching my video today. I really appreciate your support. Give me a like, give me comments about what you think. The current situation with the grain deal is very interesting to hear back from you about that. And yeah, I'm going to make another video next couple of days. So appreciate your support and thank you. Take care.